I'm Bailey Parnell, and this is Let's Think This Through. Join me for drinks as I bring on guests for conversations that inspire, amuse, and challenge us, but in a fun and relaxing kind of way. Ultimately, it's to help us all learn and live a better, easier life. So let's think this through. Good morning, thinking buddies, and welcome back to Let's Think This Through with me, Bailey Parnell. I'm excited for you to join me for drinks today because I reached out to this woman selfishly because I miss her and I wanted to catch up with her and I think she's pretty cool. And this is kind of what inspired this podcast in the first place. Going out for coffee or drinks or a cocktail I'm having this time with my friends and getting such enriching conversation. And this woman is no different. I actually met her years ago when we were coming up in the game in Toronto, and we were both young entrepreneurs trying to make our way. And she is someone who has really unique story. Like, can you tell me what it's like to be a South Asian Muslim woman who nearly 20 years ago was having kids young, is then divorced and disowned? And but also, what is it like to be a serial entrepreneur, a world traveler, and now even a real estate maven? All of these things are true for my guest today. So I'm very excited for you to hear her story and to hear the lessons that she learned along the way. Today, I will be having drinks with Huda Alvi. Welcome, Huda.
Cheers, Bailey. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. What are you drinking over there?
Okay. I have some strawberries and blueberries that I like grinded together with some maple syrup and just some like mango juice and I think some sort of like Perrier water, but it tastes good.
Oh, now that is a mocktail. That is like gourmet, but I always see you cooking online. So I feel like mine is a spritzer. There's some wine and some Perrier in there, but yours sounds a lot better.
Sorry, I went a little fancy. I was in the mood.
Oh my gosh, there's no need to be fancy. I mean, no need to be sorry. There's always a need to be fancy.
Yeah.
But how are you introducing yourself to the people these days?
Oh my God. Wow, Bailey. I think I probably said the last time someone asked me this question, I just said entrepreneur. It's too much to explain. There's too many things that I feel like my hands are involved in, but entrepreneur sums up who I am as a person. I've been an entrepreneur
Oh,
since I
absolutely
was
true.
like 16, different companies and different projects, but like that one thing has been a constant in my life. So I would say just entrepreneur would be the definition.
That is literally how I think about you. When I was thinking about who I want to catch up with, and obviously I think about which friends and which and how what I want to talk to you about. I summed you up as that in my head too, because in the time I've known you, you've had different businesses, and like sometimes due to even circumstances beyond your control, like that giant global pandemic, you like pivoted, and I think of you as like entrepreneur and hustler. And you said you've been doing this since you're like 15.
16, yeah, 16. Let's
What
not
were you
have
doing
that.
then?
It'll make me too old,
That's
but a long time.
okay, so a long time ago, you were 16. What is the business then?
I was a door-to-door sales rep, but we were individual contractors. So I like by 18, I had like my own little door-to-door company that I was running.
That's so good. And then walk through the journey. What comes next in terms of the different businesses?
You know what? There's a lot, but I think if I could like sum up big moments and big career pivots in my life, would start off with like my sales journey in door to door, which taught me pretty much everything I need to know about communication. I think that like really made me feel like I was a people's person. I developed a lot of skill sets. Um, Earlier on in my 20s, I started an HR company, which was like so different than kind of what I do now, but it was a people's business and I was a recruiter, but I had my own recruiting agency. So I used to recruit, university candidates, junior, senior candidates for different jobs kind of all over the place. And I did that for 8 years. It was a long period of my time. Like, so all pretty much in my 20s, I ran that business. And then um, I don't know, I don't know. I was growing. I was doing really well. I enjoyed the business, but I couldn't like close my eyes and just be like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. It became sort of something that I just did, but the excitement of kind of who I was pulled away, and I was unable to grow the business the way that I think I should have by year 8. And that kind of led me to like, okay, I think I should shut this whole thing down. Maybe I should pivot into something else. So in 2016, I shut down my business and I was already kind of like dabbing into the social media space, but I had no clue what I wanted to do. I think I spent from 2016 to I would say maybe like 2020, that's 4 years I spent kind of just trying different things and not knowing what I wanted to do, and I would say that was, like, the hardest time of my career life because it was very confusing transitioning out of my 20s to my 30s, not having a career, shutting down my old business, and reevaluating my skill set and being like, "Okay, what do I do with this? I've never had a job in my life. Who's gonna hire me? Which direction do I go in?" Um and that took me to different places. I think even when we met, that's pretty much when we met. I was trying to kind of hold event spaces, event programming for women. I think
Yeah, I remember.
yeah, yeah. Since I can remember, I've always been really intrigued and invested in helping women. I don't know. I think it could be because of my own story and how much I've had to struggle and constantly looking for mentors and people in my life. That each and everything that I did surrounded this ethos of like, yeah, but can we help women? Can women do this? Can women be better? So all my businesses have had that common theme. So yeah, I think for 4 years I struggled finding what I should do. I went into like holding events for women, different types of events, everything from social media to business to wellness. And that didn't, it worked in a sense that I developed a huge network. I got a sense to be a community leader. I was really fulfilled, but I don't think I had the right business strategy or plan to grow that type of business too. Um, and that led into the girls trip, which is primarily of what I do now, but that was the start of how the girls trip started.
Which is we really have to go into there's just so many threads I want to pluck there because I did meet you at the end of your HR journey into those events, and those events, when I was thinking back too, I'm like, yeah, I have noticed that theme that you pulled about always being in connection to or support of women in some way, and I do remember those events, and they were fabulous,
They
and
were
people
good.
like me got to be connected, right?
Yeah, they were good. One thing I did wanna say, I think you and I share in common is the common theme is women, but I always take the online community and try to bring it offline. I think in everything that I've done, I'm like, you meet people online, you connect with people online. I'm such an, like, social forward person, but at the end of the day, I always think about, okay, but how do we actually connect? And it's true, like, we connect, when we meet people, when we can see people, and I think that has also been the reason why I did events, the reason why I did HR, the reason why I do the girls trip, the reason why I created Wealthy Women. It's kind of like all leading down to at the end of the day, we have to meet in person somehow and connect.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and it's also beautiful when you have more time, and it doesn't make it any easier to have gone through those experiences, but when you can look back from this vantage point, you can start pulling themes because you've literally just had enough experiences and been alive long enough to be like, "Okay, well, over 3 different businesses or this many different experiences, there are these threads that started to emerge into, like, who is Huda?" You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. I mean, look, I strongly believe like after all the kind of pivots and downfalls I've had that you've never really arrived, right? And I think we say this out loud, but it's really hard believing that when you are going through the downfalls and the pivots. I remember when I started doing real estate, and I will backtrack, but I was like, someone asked me very early, and I was like, my career was like kind of launch pad and I was really enjoying what I was doing, and someone's like, "So is this it? Like, is real estate your end game?" And I was like, the answer was so quick. It was like, "No, it's never an end of doing one thing forever, but I think it's finding something that you enjoy doing till you don't enjoy it anymore, or you're pivoting into something that's calling you." And that's been my trajectory. And I think when I speak to women in their 30s and 40s, it's constantly always like, I feel like I want to do something, but like how am I gonna do it? Or like, I don't think I should start it now, or I don't know how to start it now. And it's never the idea of like, we're allowed to evolve and change and grow and try new things. And I think the older we get, the less that starts happening. I don't know why. It's fear, it's risk adverse, it's families, it's responsibilities. But I think that really taps into like personal success. And I think being in a career like real estate that is so driven by money and wealth and, constantly going after like the big dollar sign, I quickly realized I'm like, these things are great, but like, if there's no personal like self fulfillment of what you enjoy, and if that's truly what you love, and you don't find the why in these things, you can get lost easily, right? That's been kind of the way that I've felt about it for a long time.
Well, I think that's part of the reason why you're inspiring to a lot of people, including me, is because no matter what's happened in life, or like I said, even things you can't control, like starting a travel company and then having a pandemic hit. Like there's this stuff, but you are willing to take the chance on yourself repeatedly, and you're willing to say, "Hey, what do I learn? What did I learn from this? What did I like?" And I know that's always easier from this side. To go through it was probably really hard, but you always come back brighter and bigger than ever.
Thank
And
you.
and then you help people in the process, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's like my I don't know, people sometimes say to me that's like your strength and your weakness, you know? I think it's a strength. I think showing people your journey and showing while you're doing things is important so people can feel like, they're not alone versus at the end of it, which is just I think it depends on person to person, but like at the end of it, you're seeing a finished product, and people are often don't can't relate. So that's been something that's worked for me really well, and I'm that kind of person that really enjoys sharing because it makes me feel like I'm not alone. And I think that's why a lot of people that are online that create these big communities, they do it because they themselves feel connected when they are sharing and helping other people out, including themselves. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like a good baseline. If you don't know what to do, be of service to others until you figure it out. And I don't know what that means yet, but basically for me it would be my default as well.
Yeah,
What do
yeah.
you think it was? You said that like in your story that your story contributed to the reason that you help women, and that has been a thread even with connecting to them online and share and making them feel less alone. What parts of your story that you feel comfortable sharing do you think contributed to you being that person?
Um, to be honest, I don't think it's a special story. And the reason why I say that is because I think all of us, there's not a single person that I've met in my life where I've had the moment to like sit down for 10 minutes or 15 minutes where I've heard something that I completely misjudged, or I've heard something that didn't deeply resonate, especially with a woman. Because stories everyone has, no two stories are alike. But I think the difference in my version of the story is having the courage to share it. I think that's really it. I mean, if I was to look back at, getting married at an early age, I think a lot of women get married at an early age. But if I could kind of wrap up what I've been through, it would be I got married when I was 18. And that was at first by choice, but quickly turned into a very unhappy marriage. I had both my kids at like 20 and 21. I was disowned from my family for a good 6 months when I got married. Being a South Asian, Muslim, brown, kind of woman, that is something that is just completely like stepping outside of this big bubble of being a certain way. So it's breaking all those stereotypes. And then I got divorced really early too. I was 22 when I went through my divorce. The thing is, I didn't really have other women in my life at that time that was going through the same things. A lot of my friends were still young, partying, going out, and living their life while I was going through getting married, getting a divorce, becoming a single mom, all within that like in my 20s. And that, I think, caused me to mature really early and have deeper understanding about suffering and pain and hardships. And then when I turned 22, when I went through my divorce, I moved back with my parents, which they accepted me back. And the whole idea of like, South Asian parents and then me going through a divorce, that in itself was such a difficult journey for myself and also for my parents because as South Asian, showing face in the community, having to tell people that their daughter's going through a divorce, and then people having misjudged them. So I think we really required a really strong support system at that time, which I'm glad we all came together and we were all able to be there for each other. But that was a really hard time, I think, for my parents and for myself. I mean, raising two small children, I moved back with my parents. I never worked for anyone. So I was starting my business at the same time. And I really lived fiercely. I can say that. I still try to do that. As much as I can, but in my 20s going through that divorce, having young children, I didn't I kind of just like became very one track kind of minded. I didn't care what people were saying. I didn't have the time to listen to other people. I just did what I thought was right, which is being there for my kids and living my life. I traveled a lot. I started a company in my 20s. I really shared that story of going through the divorce and started speaking more online. And I think that brought a lot of people to be like, "Oh, wow. I mean, if she can do it, I can do it. I guess divorce is not that bad." And you see a lot of divorces going through this period of a lot of hardships, but I think it's rarely that you see some women that left their partners because they are happier without it. And in my case, I left my partner because I was very unhappy. And I think sharing that I'm okay going through a divorce and like, this is my choice is not something we see often. I think often you see, oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that. And, your children, maybe you should have tried. And I said, no, don't be sorry. I'm not sorry for myself. I'm actually very happy. I think when you can say that to people and set those boundaries, all of a sudden either people are receptive to it or they're like, oh, wow, good for you. Good for you. I want to be able to do that. And I think saying it makes it okay. So I did a lot of that in my 20s. And then I got remarried. I got remarried to my husband now. We had a blended family, which was also very unique at that time. We're talking about like 13 years ago, kind of like pre-social media, pre everyone being so raw and real with their stories. And we got married, so we he had a child, I had my kids, and I think that also amplified kind of like who I am, my voice, and even I would say some social presence. There was a lot of, media outlets that were willing to cover a story of, a divorced South Asian woman getting remarried, having a blended family, not having children of our
Wow,
own.
really, eh?
Mhm. Yeah, it was like a hot topic, and I think people were trying to open up those conversations. Media outlets were trying to open up those conversations. And the first question I think both of us got for the first like 5 to 5 years or even 7 years of our marriage was, "Are you going to have kids together?" And as soon as we would say no, it was like, "Well, what's going to bond you guys?" And these were like very
Oh, wow,
community
eh?
people like, "Oh, if you don't have a child together, how are you guys gonna be bonded?" And all of these different things. So, I shared a lot about that. I shared a lot about my blended family and how it meant to, like, get remarried again and, become a stepmom and then how to blend in the 2 families together. So, I would say predominantly in terms of the effect or the inspiration I've had onto other women would be sharing authentically just being a woman. It wasn't my businesses. I think businesses came after. It was like pivot to the core of who I am. But I think being honest with saying, I'm divorced and owning it and saying I got remarried again and owning it and then loudly speaking my truths is what has kind of caused that effect to be like, you're someone I want to hang with. You're someone I want to get to know. Uh, and that actually attracted more connections in my life of other strong women because I'm not the only one. There's women like you, there's women like other people that have been in my network for a long time. That was like, I like you. I want to talk to you. And that helped me build strong women around me. So I felt like I've had the privilege of being surrounded by bold, confident, successful women because I had the courage to step out of my own comfort zone that then I didn't have too many women that were pulling me down. I didn't have too many women that I was surrounded by where I came back and felt depleted. And I think that's been a catalyst to my growth is And a lot of women ask me, like, how do I get surrounded by other women? How do I build, a stronger community? And I think it starts by first you owning your own truth, standing confidently in what you believe in, not shying away from saying, oh, I won't say this because it's going to hurt someone, or I won't say this because, it's too bold. When you can cross those little steps, then you automatically start to attract more to your life.
I can see that because I think when part of what I'm attracted to in you and was an authenticity. And part of that comes from, as you noted, like being self-aware and owning that truth. Even though sometimes it's uncomfortable, even though sometimes it sucked, guess what? It did suck and that was the truth. But there was another side and there was this and we have 3 kids and there's also another way to look at this and just by you being you, it here, let me give you your flowers now because there's this whenever you see conversations as we age and we get further in our lives and we see that like, oh, 10 years or 20 years ago, this was not a conversation or this wasn't happening, but now it is with young people. I like to think for you that just a little bit of the reason in this world, a little bit of the reason in North America or online why it is okay and normal for a South Asian woman to say, "Hey, I don't want what's been imposed on me by cultural norms. Oh, hey, I don't want this. I'd rather be single. I'm okay being in a blended family." Like, because it is more normal to say this these days is in part because you did 15 years ago. Like that is the circle of life. That's the butterfly effect.
Yeah, you can't run away from your life. You can physically, you can for maybe a day, maybe two, but this is the life that I live every single day. You know what I mean? And I think similar to what you talk about, I think we so easily get distracted by seeing that life online that we start to think that life is true when in fact it's like 20% of someone's life. And I often thought to myself, like, if I'm going to be online or if I'm sharing anything online, it has to be what I'm doing after I'm online, before I'm online, before like it has to be my actual real life. And that is my real life. I can't run away from it, you know. I did get divorced and maybe I did get stamped, divorcee or whatever those cultural expectations are, but it's just so much I actually find it so much easier to own it than to rebel it. Like than to because the amount of energy it takes to fight something, it's just it's so much more easier to accept and make tweaks, move on, forgive, whatever those things that need to be done in order to set you onto the path where you are happier living your life and you are living in your truth, whatever that truth is, you know?
Mhm. And we end up creating magic out of that. And you were able to take all these experiences and you end up at, boom, the girls' trip, which is kind of combines a lot of those things that you did in your 20s, a lot of those threads that you're pulling. So, what did inspire you to start that with your sister?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go back a little bit. My dad was an entrepreneur, and it's funny because I think so much of what we've been taught when we were children and what we've experienced comes out in our life later. A lot of people ask me about this travel thing, and it's like, oh, it might be so cool to travel. I'm so like inspired by what you're doing, or it must be so awesome. Where are you going next? And it feels like this, like I feel like people think it's like this fantasy world. I'm living like the best life. But in reality, like if I could explain what travel and what being away is for me, I think it's a past of it's a glimpse of my childhood. When I was younger, my dad ran a business and he was an entrepreneur. And I can count, I think we changed more than 14 different schools when I was a kid. And I can't remember all the addresses we've lived in because we've moved so much uh, some due
Wow.
to some due to reasons out of our control, some to have a fresh new start. And I think to the core of me, I'm not afraid to start over and over and over again because of the fact that when we were children, we had to start over and over again in a new place, in a new country, in a new place. So that is why I travel. I think it's a part of my soul. I've gone to so many different places, constantly moving. That change is not new. And when I look at travel, I've had so many not pivots, but just so much of my own realizations when I've been in another country, when I've met other people. I've had so many conversations where I've felt less alone and I've been humbled by what this world is. Especially like North America, we're so privileged in so many ways that when I travel, it allows me to like get a break into like my privileged life and to be like, I'm grateful because I get to see all the people that not only don't have food, water, shelter, but just little things that we take for granted people don't have. And it just humbles me so much. And I'm addicted to that feeling of getting humbled. I'm addicted to the feeling of meeting new people. So when I started the girls trip, it was the idea that women should travel because of these reasons, not just to see Bali, not just to see Italy, not just to see France, but to go there on their own, right? To go there on their own. Like it's not big, but I will never forget me taking a train from I think it was Naples back to Rome. That 3-hour train ride, buying myself the train ticket, putting it in the ticket machine, not knowing how to use it, grabbing my luggage, sitting in the train, not have anyone tell me where to go. That was like the most independent, free feeling I had. I was like, I did this. I can't believe I did this. Because we're so used to, like, especially women, if you have children, you have a husband, you don't realize how many things you do together and how less of things you do independently as just an independent woman. And travel is one of those things. The girls' trip is one of those things at the core of it. It's helping you gain independence, it's helping you gain confidence, it's helping you step out of things that are so zoomed in, being able to take a bigger step back and look at your life and be like, am I happy in my relationship? Am I doing things that are fulfilling, my soul? Am I staying in this job? Am I made for more? And I think when we see people transition in these trips and see people come out and see the woman, you see immense like change in them after they come back, right? They take a trip with us. It's a 7-night itinerary to Bali. It looks beautiful, but it's not just Bali. It's them coming there. It's meeting another woman. It's sharing those stories. It's being vulnerable. It's being in the jungle. It's a combination of so many things, Bailey. I can't put it all in one. But the girls trip, yeah, they I think the girls trip,
Transformational.
sorry?
Transformational.
It is. It is transformational. I can truly say that it is. It's helped a lot of women, and that's why I don't think I ever shy away from marketing the company, talking about the company because I believe in it. I think it's something that every woman should do, whether it be me with my company, somewhere else, on their own. I think that is something that will bring positive change, joy, independence, all the things that women are so desiring in their 30s and 40s, but are wrapped up in their day to day, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. And just to be a little bit more tactical for people listening, because I want them all to hear about it too. When you sign up, so for the girls' trip, it's for women, and you'll see an itinerary, and it's a group of women that have all decided to go on this trip together, and they often don't know each other ahead of time. So you're not weird if you sign up and you don't know someone ahead of time.
It's not often, and actually no one knows anyone. It's a tour company. The Girls Trip is a tour company that empowers women to travel solo-ish. And the reason why I say solo-ish because you want to come alone or you can bring a friend. I would say 80% of the travelers do come solo. And the idea is to come on a trip, adventure, be inspired, get out of your comfort zone. It's not a retreat. I think sometimes we get a lot of people asking, "Oh, is it a retreat?" No, we create travel experiences to help you adventure, to get out of your comfort zone, and to do these countries. If you don't have a friend, if you're in a different path of life, if you're in your 30s, you've been asking your friends for a long time, no one wants to come. The schedules are not aligning. You want to go on a trip, you don't have enough money. So our company offers these payment plans per trips. So it's a curated 7-night itinerary with a bunch of strangers. 20% of our travelers will come with their mom, their friend, their cousin, sister, someone. Um, Once you sign up, get a welcome package, you get introduced to a private WhatsApp chat group, you meet all the travelers. Sometimes women will try to book their flights together, but at the end of the day, you all arrive in a new destination that you've been wanting to go to. All of our trips are bucket list destinations. And then you just chill out for 7 nights. We take care of everything for you. And then women come back transformed. That's the idea.
100% brilliant. I'm obsessed, and and I love you. There was a couple of like in my head when throughout the years as I've seen this grow, I always thought of like a couple of use cases, and and one of them though is um 'cause you mentioned your background as a South Asian woman, and of course, my husband is also Muslim, and so is a lot of our community, and we would joke with some of my other friends how they would never have been allowed to do the kinda high school trips or college trips that other peers in Canada did, like going on an S trip to Mexico with everyone, and I was like, well, I wasn't allowed to either, but also I was poor. But the thing is, the funny thing was that I remember thinking, oh my gosh, yeah, girls' trip. There'd probably be a lot more parents who were much more amenable to allowing their, young daughter they want them to have a meaningful experience. They just don't want them getting drunk in Mexico with half the high school for a week. like,
It's funny you say that. You won't believe, and I'm still so shocked at how many women come up to me and be like, "Oh my god, this would be great. I think my parents would finally be okay with this."
yeah, I bet.
No, and it's not to say that it's made for like South Asian women because we are truly, I think, one of the most
Totally.
diverse travel tour companies I've ever seen. Because there's been a trend of a lot of travel companies that have kind of surfaced in the last few years after COVID. And every time I look at them, or even if I get feedback from our travelers, they're like, "We wanted to go, but it was so daunting to just see like, one race or like one I don't know if I will fit in. I'm so scared. Can I sit with them? Can I eat with them?" It's like this feeling of not belonging. And I think with our trips, just real women, all sorts of women, like from every culture, every background, every age. So that makes me really proud that women come and they're like, "Oh, wow, I feel like I see me in there. I can travel too." But to go back to it, yeah, I still get those odd, like, women that will be like, "Oh my God, I was never allowed to travel. I still don't know if I can go alone. I'm so scared. Let me share this with my parents," or, something of that nature. So, funny.
Well, that's perfect and leads pretty well into a thought experiment I planned for you for this trip, which I called Ancestral Roots Girls Trip. I was combining all of these little threads about you into one. And so here's your thought experiment. Now, a thought experiment on every episode is kind of a chance for us to explore different ideas, consequences, possibilities without the constraints of reality. And so for you, I thought
That's a
your
brilliant idea,
task.
by the way.
Thank you. Well, it's one of my favorite things to do for fun, even outside of this podcast. So, you are tasked with organizing a girls' trip that helps women connect with their ancestral roots. Now, each participant would be exploring a destination tied to their heritage, learning about their culture, traditions, and history. Given your experience and insight, where would you even start with this when the theme is ancestral roots girls' trip?
Okay, I'm not gonna say this is super easy, but I'm gonna go based off of having a traveler that's had this experience. So, as
Oh, okay.
much as it's
No, I mean, this is
thought-provoking, but
why it's your thought experiment and matches you.
it's interesting because, yeah, if I was to do something like this, I think we would do something similar in a sense that our trips are labeled by the different countries. Instead of advertising to those countries to everyone, I think we would make that to be an incense, like you said, like a trip that touches onto your roots and your culture. So we had a traveler in the past that was from Portugal, but never went back to Portugal. And this was going to be a very, very special trip for her. And so the way that she experienced that trip was very different to ours. And I think if we did organize something like that, it would have a very, very big focus on culture and roots. With that being said, more authentic local experiences. So, for example, in Portugal, we do eat out at different like restaurants and whatnot. but I would bring in a lot of culinary experiences into homes. I would bring
Fun.
in experiences instead of a walking tour, kind of walking back to ancient, like a lot more historic sites versus trendy and modern sites. I think that would be a big part of it. Um, I think probably some sort of circle or ceremony, ancestral ceremony that would combine an awakening of what this place means to you. And I don't know what it is yet, but I think like if I was to do it, I would invite someone um, that we source out to do the ceremony, have everyone together, and for them to tap into um, their their belonging to this place, and that would be either done through, I wouldn't say meditation, but sort of like an awakening. I imagine like instruments, so some sort of activational experience. But I would
Like
just
sensory
like,
experience.
yeah, it's something where you can go back and then be present and then feel where you're at. Um, and I think I would change all of our experience to just have more local and historic. So anything that we do, for example, we do a lot of like gastronomy experiences tours, right? So I would just change those things around.
Well, that's pretty good answer. I love that. So I love how we're getting into we have to go into kind of history and historical elements. We have to do food, obviously, but very different kind of food, not just kind of like looks good on camera, but we're thinking, what's true to this location. And then the mind body spiritual connection is kind of really cool too.
Yeah, we do ceremonies on our trip depending on what the trip is, but we find that always brings people together, but also just makes you feel like you took this trip for a reason. So I think that would be really good.
Well, we've got the future of the girls trip, everybody.
Thank
Connecting
you.
everybody
Thank
to
I'll
this event.
send you royalty on this.
No, it's okay. I'll just come to one. If you do one in Ireland, I'll join you.
That's funny. We get
We
so
can
many
go.
requests for Ireland. I'm like, there's a lot of roots
Seriously?
for Ireland. Oh yeah, people are so patriotic and there's like a deep connection to Ireland. I don't know why.
Oh, well, here's your sign. I mean, we'll call them roots. Let's call them ancestral adventures.
You can lead. You can lead.
I don't know about that. Travel tour guide. I'll be an attendee. Maybe I'll lead I can facilitate whatever you want for sure for
But
free.
on a serious note, I would love to invite you on one of our trips when the time is right.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's funny because like this here we are, you've been doing girls trip for a while, but these days if you were to look at your social media, you might also see real estate. And these are kind of the two pillars I think of for you right now, like real estate, Maven, and girls trip. So if we're doing this, we're loving life, we're making girls trips, we're touring the world, how do we end up being the real estate maven and why did you get into that?
Okay, so there's actually been a slight like change in real estate. Not change, I would say, but like again, pivoting. Um, well, I got into real estate because I went through a separation in 2020. So my husband and I that have been married for 13 years and together for 17 years. Um, in 2020, while the world was breaking down, so I would say so was my world. It was a very difficult year. And we went through a separation because my husband no longer wanted to be married. He just didn't want to do this anymore. I wouldn't say in most cases, but I feel like sometimes you have the hindsight or like you can see something's coming. But for me, Bailey, honestly, it was the rug being swept off my feet. Like I didn't expect it. I had no idea. I wasn't prepared for it. And the speed in which everything transpired and happened really like I wouldn't say left me traumatized, but I think left me broken in ways that I've never been in my entire life. Like I've gone through a divorce, I've gone through so many different things in my life. But that for some reason like shook my whole world. I don't know if it was because like I just turned 35, I was turning 35. My birthday was literally 10 days after he decided to like end the marriage. And now in hindsight, like now that we look back, we did get back together after a year of being apart. It was a midlife crisis. And this is why I have so much compassion towards humans in general, because depending on religion, culture, where you're born, what your upbringing in, you're not taught the tools to deal with things. In our case, my husband was going through a midlife crisis. And I think the only way for him to deal with it, being a man and not knowing how to process emotions and emotional intelligence, he did what I think a lot of people try to do, which is run away. He just wanted to run away. Like everything's going to solve, we're going to solve our problems by me just leaving this marriage. And for me, I think it was something that um, changed my identity, like, truly. Like, I'm not the same person as I was before 2020. I'm a brand new person because of that. So, we went through a separation in 2020, and that was caused by a lot of financial distress. We were in a home that we couldn't afford. We were paying our bills, but we were in a lot of debt. I had changed my career. I was still in the, like, process of finding what I wanted to do next, and I think all that pressure, which is the number one cause of divorces. All that financial pressure kind of led to him having his midlife crisis and choosing to end our marriage as a result of that. Now, when that happened, I think for me, being 35, possibly going through my second divorce, being a single mother again, not having a job, not having any savings. And I remember applying to serve, I was getting $2,000 a month. I was just like, how did this happen? Like, how am I here at this age? And if, my husband decides to leave, I have nothing to myself. Like, I don't have anything. I didn't have a home. Like, we sold our home for a loss. Well, not a loss. Yeah, I mean, like, I think we had like 60K that came out of that house after all these years. And it was just, it was a clean slate for me, but a very hard clean slate. And that's when I met a friend that was in real estate that was honestly making a lot of money. And just, I saw her and I wanted to be here because it wasn't even just the money, and it was just that, like, that power, that confidence that you don't, like, if something happens, you got yourself kind of aura. And I
Yeah,
think because I was
independence.
just, yeah, and I was so, so low. Like, my self-esteem, I don't think it has ever been that low. I'm generally a pretty confident person, but that time, like, I was really, really suffering, and it seemed like the only hope. I'm like, "What can I do that will challenge the way I've been thinking? What can I do that will really, like, elevate me?" And I got into real estate, um, and it wasn't just getting into real estate. I got into real estate, but I started investing in real estate. And I don't know how those two things happen. I still look back and I'm like, how did this happen? I think it was just timing. I surrounded myself in the right environment. I got a job in a investing company, mortgage company. I was dealing with a lot of like wealthy investors, people that were like taking money here, taking, and I just started understanding things. And I'm like, how does money work? What is our relationship with money? And I think for me, it was a personal trauma because my marriage ended because of finances. I was like, I will never ever be in that place again. It was like a personal, like, just goal or vision that I wanted, that this can never happen again. And that was the switch from like being completely broken to, okay, I'm going to pivot and I'm going to reestablish my life, but this time I'm going to do it the right way. So I got into real estate. I became a real estate agent. I started investing in real estate. I took the money that I had from the house, I invested that, and then I went to the bank, and then I borrowed money. I took out a loan. And because I was in the environment, I was kind of like learning. And then by that time, like a year later, my husband came back into the picture. We resolved a lot of things. He pivoted and changed and grew into this whole new man that I respect and admire so much now. And I think I grew into a person that was independent, confident, and that he respects and admires so much. And when we went through that, I remember doing therapy together, and our therapist said, if you're lucky, you'll be married to the same person 3 times. You'll have 3 marriages in your life. Your first marriage is, when you're going things together, you're new, you're learning. Your second marriage is when you pivot to like year 10, when you've gone through a lot of things together, and you're in a different time period of your life. Your kids are older, your careers are established. And the third marriage will come when you age and you're old, and that's when it's a totally different marriage. So she reminded us this is your second marriage now, but with the same person. And I think for both of us, that
Oh, nice way to look at that.
yeah, yeah, it was a really good, kind of thought to make us reevaluate everything. And I think because we were two different people, we came together and we kind of just like we had a lot of momentum and a lot of grit to be like we're gonna build something strong again. So we both started investing in real estate. We did like three flips. We bought two pre-cons, pre-construction investments. And from that came the idea of wealthy woman, and it's spelled WELLTHY. And I didn't spell it wealthy because I think the in order to be wealthy, in order to have financial abundance, independence, all of that, you really need to be well first. And when I started working with women, I niched into real estate, helping women invest, sell, and buy. And soon enough, like after a year or so, I realized that even before women could start investing and women could start thinking about money, there's a lot of programming that needs to be changed around their worth, around what they deserve, around the confidence that they carry, around not having partners or independence in their relationships within themselves, not knowing how to save, not knowing how to budget. There was just so much work to be done that my process of helping someone buy a real estate property soon became like this 6 month, 8 month process where I started with mindset work and wealth work and money mindset, confidence, and then like helping them build a budget and saving and whatnot. So that worked really successfully for me for a good like 2.5 years. I helped a lot of women purchase property, a lot of women save, a lot of women think about wealth and money in a different way. And the reason why I say
Was
like
this
now
while you were at the agency?
sorry,
Was this while you were at the agency? Because I
a
swear I remember seeing them open up in Canada, right?
Yeah, yeah. I That was my first brokerage that I joined. So I was with them and then I moved over to another agency, another brokerage. But I found my career to start pivoting when I made the shift from sharing my personal experiences, being broke, going through a separation, like so openly, and sharing how I've got one house to two house to three house, showing my renovations, talking about, hey, don't like a lot of real estate agents were like, "Come, I can help you buy a house." But my story was different. My story was like, "No,
No,
you don't need
all
to own
true.
an asset and buy a house because that's what everyone does. You need to do it so that if anything happens, that's the only form of wealth that will be able to help you be independent and confident." So I think like my meat and potatoes of what I was doing was very different than what a lot of agents were doing. That made me very successful in my career, and so did my online community. I had built this online community through like 15 years of sharing the pivots and the downfall. So when people started working with me, they already knew me. They already felt comfortable because a lot of the calls that I got, a lot of the clients that I worked with were very much so like I'm going through a divorce or I just separated or my life's not going the right way. I have no savings. I have no money. It was all based on what I shared, right? If I was comfortable sharing, they were comfortable with sharing. So that really, really like, my trajectory of my career changed very quickly. Um, but then I lost my account. I lost my account, and that really, really hurt my business a lot because I would say a
Oh
hundred
my gosh,
percent.
yeah, your social media accounts
Yeah,
that had,
yeah,
like, thousands and thousands of followers.
yeah. Sorry, I meant account. That's what I meant. I lost my social media account, and that tremendously impacted my business. 100% of my business came through my Instagram, and when I lost my account, so like all my leads, all my contacts, everything was gone. And again, in my head, I was like, okay, so where am I supposed to pivot now? Like, God, what's next, right? And that's why I say, like, they say, make sure you smile on the way up because you're going to be coming down. You're going to be seeing the same people, and I truly believe in that. Like, things can be going completely like one way, and then there comes a downfall. You have to find a way to pivot. So I would say the last 8 months since I lost my social media account, I've been thinking about what to do with this wealthy woman brand, and I would say over the last like 3 months, I've gotten some clarity to be like, okay, the wealthy woman brand definitely empowers women to be financially independent through real estate. But I think a wealthy woman is categorized into like these four big empires, I can say. Like one is your worth, really understanding where that worth comes from, that inner confidence, working on your traumas and, all of that. And then my second empire is your well-being or your wellness, really looking after your health and your body and your mind. I myself am turning 40 next year, so I've had a really big pivot into this health journey to want to age gracefully and to love myself, not just physically, but who I am on the inside. So wellness is a big part of it. And then wealth comes third. You know, when you can have that confidence, that worth, taking care of yourself, now you're in a place to build that money, that powerful, version of you through real estate, through investing, learning how to save, becoming that financially independent, boss lady type of uh vibes that we see that women really want, but they don't know how to get it. So the wealth chapter focuses on that. And then lastly, I would say, as we age and we get into our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, what defines a woman, what makes her beautiful? It's being world class. It's exuberating this level of sophistication, poise, gracefulness that is made up from your experiences, your friendships, your relationships. So that is like the end empire, is how to be a world class woman, how to carry yourself with confidence and grace. So that's what the wealthy woman brand is now. And I think moving forward, some things that I really hope to kind of establish in 2025 is, like we were talking about, a podcast, a community where people can go online and download some digital products into like this little,
You'd be
category
so
of.
good at that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's my hope. Maybe a mastermind. So I'm still doing real estate, but I know that
Bring
selling.
back those old skills.
Yeah, 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 let's see. I don't know. I don't wanna overpromise, but I think that's where I'm at with the Wealthy Woman brand. I still do real estate, but I see there's a lot of things that are missing that women need before they get to buying that home, you know?
And just a little side note, did they not give you your account back? Like, how did that
No.
happen? Because I think for everyone listening, I just need you to understand this is not any social media account. This is like 100% of your marketing and sales. So Instagram wasn't able to get this back for you?
No, the hacker, there was a hacker, they completely took over. I think I had an opportunity to maybe get it back, but I think I
Oh
took
my
this
gosh.
opportunity to pivot and really start off again, have a clean slate. And I also transferred over to TikTok. I learned how to use another platform, how to build a community on a different platform that is doing so well, and I'm so happy that I was able to do that. And now it gives me the opportunity to restart. I think I really am addicted to restarting and pivoting all the time. So I don't know. I'm gonna take it as it
Well,
comes.
that is kind of I always think, like, that kind of mentality lends itself well to consultants and what you're doing, which is
Mhm.
kinda helping people restart, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, whether it's, like, health, wealth, or travel, all of these things. So it actually all of this leads very nicely into the segment that I chose specifically for you, which is called Quick Thinking. Because when I read Wealthy Woman and when I read Worthy, Wealthy, and World Class, I was like, "Ooh, that's just too good not to play with." So so what I'm gonna do in this quick thinking segment is I chose for each category, worthy, wealthy, and world class, I chose 3 rapid fire questions, and I'm gonna give them to you, and you have to say what comes to mind quickest, okay?
My God, I hate these.
You're like, "I
To
hate
be
you, Mom."
completely honest,
Hated
but
it.
we're gonna give it a go.
It's a poverty. Okay, the first one is worthy. Worthy, 3 questions. 1, what's one daily affirmation you live by?
One day at a time.
Pretty good. What's a non-negotiable self-care ritual for you?
A drive.
Oh,
I like being in my
excellent.
car and driving. That gives me a lot of peace. The second one, I will say cooking. Something about getting my hands, turning off my brain, and making something that my kids will love is a form of love and self care for me.
Nice. And right now under worthy, name a worthy woman who inspires you and why. You can give them a shout out.
This is hard. I think it's the everyday woman in my life. To be completely honest, it's the friendships that I
I
have
bet.
with, everyone that I have, from the girls trip to these new friendships that I've made. They all are inspiring to me. if I was to name someone that everyone knows that I look up to, that I really admire from afar, for some reason, I would say Meghan Markle. I think she's a disruptor in many ways of what she's done, and also what she gives back. She gives back a lot, and I really, really like that.
Perfect. Okay, category number 2, wealthy.
Mm.
What is your top or quickest piece of real estate advice for young women?
Don't wait to start. Most of the calls that I do are always, "I'm not ready yet," and I think that goes with anything in life. You have to start somewhere. So even if you're not buying real estate today, talking to someone and getting on the bandwagon is starting to me and looking at your money.
Okay, noted. I might have to talk to you after. What is a financial goal that you are currently working toward?
Um, I would say as an entrepreneur, we are always up and down. So, 2025, I want to create more stability financially because real estate is, sometimes up, sometimes down. Hence why the wealthy woman, I want something, what's the word? Passive, let's say, focused on the passive
Mhm.
income,
And
more
consistent.
steady, consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, weather the storms a bit easier. Okay. What is 3 things, could be random, fun, whatever, 3 things that every woman should budget for?
Mm, Yeah, I okay, 3 things that women spend the most money on is, beauty, clothes, and entertainment. So, I would probably reverse that and say that if we can budget those 3 areas of our life, you'd probably be saving money, and you probably have a lot more money in your bank account.
Nice. Pay attention to how you look and how you're spending
It's
your funds.
consumerism. We have too many cool, new, trendy things. We don't need to keep up with it.
Yeah. Finally, number 3, world class. What current travel destination is on your list?
That's I'm just trying to think. I would say Japan. Like, I have a bunch,
Ooh,
but
that's
Japan is
on our list.
it's on my list. It's calling me. I don't know when it will happen, but yeah, that's on my list.
Pretty. What's the one activity that always makes a trip feel world class?
Ooh. Some sort of, boat, like some sort of water, um, activity. Most
Ooh, good
yeah,
one.
most of our trips will have culinary, but it's not until we get on that, like, private boat where people are like, all of a sudden, the girls got their champagnes and, like, you just see them, like, literally world class. It's like you just see people turn into, like, their world class versions of themselves, so it's really nice to see.
Oh, I love that. The last question under world class. If you could take a group of wealthy women on a retreat anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Oh my god. Um, I think Bali.
I was kind
It's
of thinking that.
it's still Bali, like, we have Bali trips, but if I can think about some travel destinations that have changed my life, Bali. The reason is because it just fits all of those criterias for a woman. It's not you can go and sit at a beach club and feel world class, but then you can do a cooking class in a village with, all the locals. And then you can sit on like what do they call Gojek, which is like the motorcycles and ride in the back, through the jungle. It just has everything. It's really like Eat, Pray, Love. I'm not gonna lie. Like I think we should change our name to Eat, Pray, Love Bali because it really does have that effect.
Oh, I can see that. I sense a collaboration coming soon. Wealthy women and girls
I know you're
trips.
putting that in my head.
Fortunately, I own both of them, so this is great.
Totally.
Mhm. I know, I absolutely love where this is all going for you, and I know that you're saying that's kind of been, like, 8 months since this has really been feeling like it's getting going, but I feel like 2025 is going to be such a great year for you, where all of these stories seem to be coinciding, coalescing into the brands and the experiences that you're creating today.
Thanks, Bailey. That means a lot. It really does. Thank you. I'm hoping to. I'm gonna put my heart where it's calling me. So
Mm. Well, as we come near the end of this, I always end every episode with what's called train of thought, where we connect some big ideas from our chat to the summary idea from the last episode. So, first things first, what would you say is one big idea from our chat today that stands out to you?
the retreat.
Okay, sick. So we're like wealthy woman retreat?
So yeah, yeah. So if you see it, I'll thank you for putting that in
No,
my head.
sorry. You don't need to thank me. It's why you think that's why I think with my friends out loud, or you think all the good ideas
Oh,
come
that
from
was
me too.
great. It really was. I definitely gonna think on that. That one's good.
Okay, so a big idea from this episode is a wealthy women retreat. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the idea from the last episode that they pulled out, and you just have to think how to top of your mind how do these two ideas connect in your head in a train of thought. So the idea from last episode was that DEI work specific diversity, equity, inclusion work does not have to be hard. It can be done in everyday instances of how you're being enacting. So DDI work is doesn't have to be hard. It can be done in everyday instances in how you're being and acting. How does this, in your mind, connect to a wealthy women retreat?
Um, Highlighting that in the vendors and partners we pick to work with that are diverse local women that have a story and can
Oh,
merge their
cool.
experiences with our travelers, because I can't control the travelers we have and where they come from, but I can definitely control the partners that we lean on to help educate the women that are coming on the trips.
That is so good. I wouldn't even have thought of that.
I
But
don't
that's
know.
why I asked you.
And we try to do that, believe it or not, it's one of our goals to do that as well. One, to have all female vendors, which is sometimes not possible, and to have like diverse local women that are helping. And we've seen it actually, funny enough, a few of our trips we've had certain, women that are from a specific place that their mind and hearts have opened up to new conversations with women that they never thought they'd interact with or be with or have friendships with. And that's been really, really nice to see.
Ethical sourcing of vendors, if you will.
Wow.
That is wonderful, Huda. Is there any last pieces of advice that you have for listeners?
I'm going to leave your listeners with something that has impacted me. And I heard this on a podcast, and it said, so many of us are in the waiting rooms of our life. Stop waiting. Stop sitting in that waiting room. It's like the worst, awful feeling just sitting there waiting. I don't know, like when you're at the doctor's office, when you're in a line, that feeling, that's
I
where
love
most of
that.
us are in our life. We're just waiting. So just stop. Just take
Just try it. Just try something, take a step, fail, but it'll be better than the waiting room.
Smooth. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Bailey.